I'm Craig Zinkovich. I'm the executive producer on Star Trek Online, Cryptic Studios. Who are you, Andy?
I'm Andy Velasquez, associate producer for Star Trek Online.
So this is Star Trek Online. It is the MMO that is set in the Star Trek universe. That should be pretty evident. It takes place in the year 2409, which is 30 years after Star Trek Nemesis, which was the last major motion picture in the prime time line, as well as 22 years after the Hobus supernova that destroyed the Romulan homeworld and sent Nero and Spock back in time for that really cool motion picture that came out last May. Lots of stuff has happened in the last 20-25 years. Of course, the Romulan Empire is still around. They have to deal with the fact that their homeworld was destroyed. The Borg have returned. They're more powerful than ever and still bent on upon assimilation. Probably the most important piece of information, though, is that the Khitomer Accord, the treaty between the Klingon Empire and the Federation, have broken down, and the two factions are pretty much in all-out war at this point in time in history. So that's really the first choice that you have to make when you start Star Trek Online, is what faction you're going to end up joining, whether or not you're going to be a warrior in the Klingon Defense Force, or whether or not you're going to end up being a captain in the Starfleet military. Everybody in Star Trek Online is a captain of a starship. We weren't really that interested in making that game where you go down to the transporter room and press the button for 20 hours, level up, go to engineering, crank a wrench for a while, maybe you get to the bridge someday. Figured most people who had seen the movie, seen the TV, everybody had dreamed of being a starship captain and commanding that starship, and that's really the experience we wanted to focus on and make happen. So Andy here is a lieutenant in Starfleet, in command of this light cruiser Miranda class vessel, and he has been tasked by Starfleet to deliver an ambassador to the Vulcan monastery world of Pajam. Nicely done. See, he's getting so much better at it. Monastery planet, it's late on a Friday, we all get crazy. Pajam, when he arrived into the system, he was hailed by Klingons, saying that he had an evil shapeshifter on board, should beam the ambassador over, else they were going to attack. And he's a good Starfleet officer, if not a demo driver, and he's not going to give up the ambassador without a fight. So the content in Star Trek Online, we really want to make it feel as though you're experiencing one of the TV shows, living through one of the movies. And like those, you never stay in one place for very long at all. You're constantly moving from space, getting a distress signal, beaming down to the planet, rescuing a scientist, going back up to a space station that's on fire, getting some data, going back to your spaceship for a climactic space battle at the end. And that's what the content in Star Trek Online is all about. Constantly, during one single play session, moving from space to ground, back to space again. So we're going to show you here one of the first episodes in the game that you do get to experience. Kind of show just the beginning of it. You don't get to see the whole thing, sorry about that. You'll get to see a little spaceship combat, and then we'll beam down and show you a little bit of ground play as well.
It's actually called that episode in the game?
Excuse me?
It's actually called an episode?
Yes,
like
yeah,
quest line or something?
We actually call them episodes in the game. Yeah, the mission is an episode. So, in Star Trek, I mean, you guys know, these aren't little teeny zippy around fighters. These are large, really powerful starships with, most of them have hundreds of crew on board, lots of weaponry. We really wanted to capture that with the combat in space. Whenever you watch the shows, the movies, and they get in an engagement, it's all about, transferring energy to your weaker shields. It's all about moving power from your engines to your weapons at the right time. It's about getting behind the enemy, knocking down their shields, and hitting them with a photon torpedo at the right time to take out the hull. So, as Andy engages, we can take a look at ends up what happened with these bird of prey who are going to end up attacking him. See, he starts to take some damage on his forward shield, but he can kind of mitigate that easily just by transferring power over there. He's not going to have a difficult time at all because most of his ship's power is based, being directed towards his shields here. But if he wants to take them out, you know, quickly and kind of to the point, he's going to want to switch his power levels over to weapons, so he really drops their shields much faster and can really attack them. So, weapons in starships in STO all have facing as well as firing arcs. Whoa, that was a big explosion. You can you take a look. Andy's forward-facing photon torpedoes here have a firing arc of about 90 degrees. He has a forward-facing phaser array and a rear one as well that have a much larger firing arc. You can see how they overlap, which really allows you to kind of, you know, broadside your enemy, hit them with both your forward and rear-facing weapons, take down their shields, because beam weapons are really good at taking down enemy shields, and then turning in and firing off all your photon torpedoes at the hull in quick succession.
Is there any evading you can do, or when an enemy shoots a torpedo, you're pretty much locked on?
There is evading that you can do. You can end up, you know, increasing your chance of being missed. You can try to mitigate that damage. As the photon torpedo is coming towards you, you can actually transfer power to that shield to try to bring that shield back up to kind of absorb it before it comes in. So there's a lot of reactionary stuff that you can do when you see that you're under fire. So all starships in Star Trek Online have these basic systems, these basic elements. You see the throttle, the you know, the shields, the power levels, being able to transfer that around, and your weapons with facing and firing arcs. As you get larger ships, you do get more weapons in the front, weapons in the rear, but really all of that is the same across all starships. Where you get your really cool powers from in space combat in Star Trek Online is from your bridge officers. The shows, the movies, they're nothing if they're not about the crew. It's like what they know, it's the skills that they have, it's who happens to be on the bridge when that crisis happens. And that it really defines how the ship is going to behave. We wanted to take that idea of crew, that fundamental part of Star Trek, and make it a really big, important part of Star Trek Online. So bridge officers in Star Trek Online are really kind of MMO pets, but like kicked up a notch to the next level. You name these guys, you customize the way they look, you level them up, you pick what skills they have, you level those skills up, you give them equipment for when they beam down on away team missions with you. They really almost become a secondary character, a part of who you are in the game. And so Andy here has the light cruisers, as we talked about, and that ship has 3 bridge officer stations on board. It has a tactical station, an engineering station, and a science station here. And he has 3 bridge officers already in those stations: Sasha, Mira, Jin, and Hope. All names that Andy picked just to make it difficult for me to say Shasha during the demo. Sasha is the tactical officer, and we're going to kind of give you an example of the kind of cool powers, cool abilities that your bridge officers give you for space combat. Normally when Andy fires off a photon torpedo, only one torpedo goes off. If he has a tactical officer that has the ability of photon torpedo salvo, he can ask Sasha to kind of load up that photon torpedo salvo, and the next time he fires off a photon torpedo, he's going to fire off 2 or 3 photon torpedoes.
What would the crew members be comparable to in other MMOs? Because they sound like modifiers at your attack. Are they like equipment?
Kind of that, and like they're kind of like equipment, but they're also kind of like part of your character. I mean, if it comes down to it, I'm like, I don't care what they're called in other MMOs. They're bridge officers, right? They are. You do end up acquiring them. You gain access to more advanced bridge officers. Maybe you do an episode where you save the homeworld of a certain race.
Bridge officers that are.
There are definitely rare bridge officers that are difficult